I've just received a classified briefing that I was never supposed to see, and what I'm about to tell you has left me unable to sleep for 3 consecutive nights. Before we begin, I need you to do something for me. Comment your city name below and tell me, have you noticed anything unusual in the night sky recently? Anything at all? NASA is quietly compiling reports from civilians around the world, and your observation might be more important than you realize. Do that now, because what I'm about to share may change the way you see humanity's place in the universe. 72 hours ago, a fragment no larger than a refrigerator entered Earth's atmosphere over the South Pacific. It didn't burn up, it didn't disintegrate, it descended slowly, impossibly, defying every known law of atmospheric entry. And then it stopped, 300 miles above the surface of the water. It hovered. Witnesses on a nearby fishing vessel reported that the object emitted a low-frequency hum that made their teeth vibrate and caused every electronic device on board to display the same image, a spiral, a golden spiral. The Fibonacci sequence rendered in light. Then it sank deliberately, gracefully into the ocean. Within 6 hours, the Pentagon had mobilized a rapid response team. Aircraft carriers were diverted, submarines were scrambled. A media blackout was issued across 5 countries, and I received a phone call from someone I cannot name at an agency I cannot mention asking me one question. Dr. Kaku, what do you know about 3I Atlas? I know what you're thinking. 3 Atlas is just an interstellar comet, a harmless chunk of ice and rock that passed through our solar system in 2019. We tracked it, we photographed it, we dismissed it, but that's the official story. The sanitized version, the one designed to keep you calm. The truth is far stranger and far more terrifying. You see, 3 Atlas was never just a comet. From the moment it was discovered by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System in December 2019, something about it didn't make sense. Its trajectory was wrong. Comets follow predictable paths governed by gravity, momentum, and the delicate mathematics of celestial mechanics. But 3I Atlas deviated subtly at first, then more aggressively, as if it were correcting its course, as if it were navigating. I was part of a small group of scientists who were quietly asked to review the data. We were told it was a routine analysis, a second opinion. But when I saw the telemetry, I knew immediately that this was no routine request. The object had performed at least 3 trajectory adjustments. Adjustments that required thrust, energy, intention, and here's the part that made my blood run cold. Each adjustment occurred exactly as 3 Atlas passed through a region of space with elevated electromagnetic activity. It was using the solar wind, harvesting energy from the sun itself to maneuver. That's not a comet, that's a probe. But we said nothing. We filed our reports. We used language like anomalous outgassing and non-gravitational acceleration. We wrote in the passive voice, the way scientists do when they want to bury the truth in jargon. Because to say what we really believed, that 3 Atlas was artificial, that it was sent here, that it was watching us, would have been career suicide, it would have been madness. Except now, with a fragment of that object sitting on the ocean floor beneath 2 miles of water, madness is starting to look a lot like truth. The fragment was retrieved 4 days ago. I cannot tell you how. I cannot tell you by whom, but I can tell you what they found. The exterior surface is composed of a metallic alloy that does not exist on Earth. It contains isotopes of elements we have never seen in nature. When subjected to spectroscopy, the material absorbs light in a pattern that suggests it was engineered at the atomic level. Nanotechnology, but not our nanotechnology. This is precision engineering on a scale that would require computational power billions of times greater than anything humanity possesses. But that's not the disturbing part. The disturbing part is what's inside. When they opened the fragment, and yes, they found a way to open it, which should tell you something about how sophisticated this object truly is. They discovered a data storage medium, a crystalline lattice structure capable of holding more information than every hard drive on Earth combined. And encoded within that lattice was a message, not in binary, not in mathematics, but in something far more direct, far more invasive. It was a neural pattern, a map of human consciousness. Let me explain what that means. For decades, neuroscientists have been trying to decode the structure of thought to understand how neurons fire in patterns that create memory, emotion, identity. We've made progress. We can read crude brain signals, control prosthetics with thought, even induce specific memories in lab animals. But we are children playing with blocks compared to what we found in that fragment. The data inside wasn't just information, it was experiential. It was a recording of human subjective experience encoded in a format that could be read, copied, and transmitted across light years. Someone out there knows what it's like to be human, and they didn't learn it from our radio signals or our television broadcasts. They learned it by studying us directly, intimately at the level of consciousness itself. Now, you might be wondering, how is that even possible? How could an extraterrestrial intelligence capture the neural architecture of human experience? The answer, I believe, lies in something we've only recently begun to understand: quantum entanglement and the non-local nature of consciousness. There is growing evidence in theoretical physics that consciousness is not merely an emergent property of the brain, but a fundamental feature of the universe itself. That awareness in some form exists at the quantum level. And if consciousness is a quantum phenomenon, then it can be entangled, it can be observed, it can be recorded from a distance. What if 3i Atlas wasn't just a probe? What if it was a receiver? A device designed to passively collect the quantum signatures of conscious beings across the galaxy? What if right now, as I speak these words, our thoughts, our emotions, our very sense of self is being broadcast into the cosmos like radiation from a star? That possibility terrifies me because it means we have never been alone. We have always been watched, always been studied, and now, for reasons I cannot fathom, they have sent us a fragment of that knowledge back. A mirror, a reflection of ourselves as seen through alien eyes. But why? Why now? Why here? I have a theory, and it's not comforting. I believe we are being evaluated, judged, and I believe the fragment that landed in the Pacific is a test, a final exam. Because you see, 3 Atlas is not the first object of its kind. Over the past 2 decades, we've detected at least 7 other interstellar visitors, objects that passed through our solar system on trajectories that defied natural explanation. Oumuamua in 2017, Boris in 2019, and 5 others that were never made public. Each one exhibited anomalies. Each one seemed to linger near Earth just a little too long, and each one left behind trace radiation signatures consistent with advanced propulsion systems. We are being surveilled. Our solar system has become a waypoint, a checkpoint on some vast galactic highway. And I believe the civilizations monitoring us are asking a single question: are we ready? Ready for what? That's the question that keeps me awake at night. Ready for contact? Ready for inclusion in some cosmic community of intelligent species? Or ready for something else, something darker? There's a concept in astrobiology known as the Great Filter. It's the idea that somewhere between the emergence of life and the ability to colonize the galaxy, there exists a barrier, a filter that prevents civilizations from advancing beyond a certain point. Most species, the theory goes, never make it through. They destroy themselves, they exhaust their resources, they create technologies they cannot control. And the question that haunts every scientist who thinks about the Fermi paradox is this: is the Great Filter behind us or ahead of us? If it's behind us, if we've already survived the most dangerous phase of our development, then the universe should be teeming with life. But if it's ahead of us, if the truly dangerous threshold is still to come, then the silence of the cosmos takes on a chilling new meaning. It means that most civilizations reach our level of technology and then vanish quickly, quietly, as if they were never here at all. And what if the extraterrestrial intelligences monitoring us are not here to welcome us? What if they're here to ensure we don't pass through the filter? What if Earth is under quarantine, a zoo, a nature preserve, a cosmic experiment that must be contained? The fragment from 3i Atlas may be a warning, a final notice, a message that says you have reached the threshold. What you do next will determine whether you are allowed to continue. Let me share something with you that I was explicitly told not to share. Inside the data lattice recovered from the fragment, there was a secondary layer of information, a sequence of images rendered in a visual language that required weeks of analysis to decode. And when the team finally cracked it, what they saw was a history not of Earth, but of dozens of other worlds, planets circling distant stars, each one depicted in a series of images showing the same progression: the rise of technology, the development of artificial intelligence, the construction of massive energy harvesting systems, and then darkness, silence, empty cities, abandoned structures, worlds that had advanced to the brink of something magnificent and then ceased to exist. It was a gallery of extinction, a museum of failed civilizations, And Earth was among them, not as a past victim, but as a future case study. We are being shown our fate, and we are being asked, will you choose differently? The Pentagon knows this. That's why they're mobilizing. That's why fleets are being repositioned. That's why emergency protocols are being activated in capitals around the world, because the fragment is not dormant. It's transmitting a low-frequency signal, pulsing at regular intervals, broadcasting into space. And 3 days ago, that signal changed. It accelerated as if it were saying, the test has begun. Now, I want to address something directly. There are people who will tell you this is fear-mongering, that I've lost my objectivity, that I'm trading scientific rigor for sensationalism. But let me ask you this. What would you do if you saw what I've seen? If you held in your hands evidence that humanity is not the apex of intelligence, but a species under observation? If you knew that every major technological leap we've made in the last 50 years, microprocessors, fiber optics, artificial intelligence, has coincided with the passage of an interstellar object through our solar system, would you stay silent? Would you trust the authorities to tell you the truth? I have spent my entire life studying the universe. I have written books about the future of humanity, about our potential to become a Type 1 civilization, to harness the energy of our planet to reach for the stars. But I have always assumed we would do so on our own terms. In our own time, I never considered the possibility that someone else might be controlling the timeline, that our evolution might be guided, curated, permitted. And now I must consider the most disturbing possibility of all. What if we are not the first humans? Let me explain. The fragment contains genetic data, sequences of DNA that are unmistakably human, but they don't match any population currently living on Earth. The closest match is to ancient hominids, Neanderthals, Denisovans, species that went extinct tens of thousands of years ago, which means either those species achieved spaceflight, an absurd notion, or someone else collected samples of Earth's biosphere long before Homo sapiens became dominant. And if they collected samples once, what's to stop them from doing it again? What's to stop them from seeding other worlds with human DNA, from running the same experiment on 100 different planets to see which version of humanity survives? We might be one iteration in a vast cosmic trial, a beta test, and the fragment is a progress report. I know how this sounds. I know the instinct is to dismiss it, to laugh it off, to cling to the familiar explanations. But I urge you to sit with the discomfort, to consider the evidence, to look up at the night sky and ask yourself, what if? What if the reason we haven't found intelligent life is because intelligent life found us first and decided we weren't ready for contact? What if the Fermi paradox isn't a paradox at all, but a policy, a rule, a galactic law that says primitive civilizations must be isolated until they prove they can coexist peacefully with themselves? And what if we have failed that test repeatedly across millennia of war, genocide, environmental destruction, and technological recklessness? The fragment is not a gift. It's a final warning, and the clock is ticking. NASA has quietly updated its planetary defense protocols. New telescope arrays are being constructed in remote locations. SETI has expanded its search parameters to include non-radio signals, visual pulses, gravitational waves, neutrino bursts. World governments are holding closed-door sessions with physicists, biologists, and ethicists, asking questions they never thought they'd have to ask. How do we respond to a message we don't understand? How do we prepare for contact with an intelligence that views us the way we view insects? How do we ensure our survival when the rules of existence are being rewritten in real time? I don't have answers. I wish I did, but I have questions. Urgent existential questions that demand our collective attention. If the fragment is a test, what are the criteria? Is it our technological sophistication, our moral development, our capacity for compassion, our ability to transcend tribalism and see ourselves as one species, one planet, one fragile experiment in the vast indifference of space? And if we fail, what happens? Does the signal stop? Do the probes withdraw? Or does something else arrive? Something less patient, less forgiving? I think about the civilizations depicted in those images, the empty cities, the silent worlds, and I wonder, did they know? Did they see the signs? Did they have their own versions of this conversation, this warning, this desperate plea for awareness? Or did they ignore it, distracted by their petty conflicts, their economic anxieties, their refusal to confront the enormity of existence? We are at a crossroads, a threshold, and the universe is watching. I want you to understand something. This is not about aliens invading. This is not Independence Day. This is not some Hollywood fantasy where humanity bands together and defeats the extraterrestrial threat with nuclear weapons and clever software viruses. This is about recognition, about being seen, about realizing that we are not the authors of our own story, but characters in a narrative far older and far larger than we ever imagined. And the question is, what role will we play? Will we be the species that transcended its violent past and joined the galactic community, or will we be another cautionary tale, another empty world in the archive, another failed experiment? The Fragment is still transmitting. The Pentagon is still mobilizing, and somewhere out in the darkness between stars, something is listening, waiting, judging. I've dedicated my life to understanding the cosmos, to unlocking the secrets of string theory, quantum mechanics, the nature of space and time. But none of that prepared me for this, for the possibility that we are not alone, that we have never been alone, and that our future depends not on what we discover, but on what we choose to become. So I'll leave you with this. Look up tonight. Find the brightest star you can see and ask yourself, is someone out there looking back? And if they are, what do they see? A species worth saving or a problem that needs to be solved? Follow this channel as we continue decoding the universe's final warnings. Because this story is far from over, in fact, I believe it's only just beginning. The fragment has begun to pulse with increasing frequency. The signal is growing stronger, and I cannot shake the feeling that we are running out of time to prove we deserve a place among the stars. What will we choose? And more importantly, will we choose in time? Comment below. Tell me what you think is happening. Tell me if you've seen anything unusual. Tell me if you believe, as I now do, that humanity is standing at the edge of the greatest revelation in history or the greatest reckoning. Because whatever happens next, we will face it together as one species, one fragile, beautiful, terrifying species caught between the darkness of ignorance and the blinding light of cosmic truth. The universe is speaking